This country was not built on freedom. It was built on theft, genocide, slavery, and silence. The land we live on was stolen, ripped away from Native people through war, betrayal, and the violent erasure of entire cultures. Homes burned, families torn apart, and languages were forbidden, and children were buried. This land wasn't discovered, it was taken. Then this country marched south and stole half of Mexico, Texas, California, Arizona, and New Mexico. That land wasn't empty. It was alive with history, with people, with deep indigenous roots. Mexicans and Native Americans share that blood. And now this country dares to call their descendants illegal on the land that was theirs first. And while land was being stolen, millions of black people were stolen too. Enslaved, brutalized, forced to build a country that never intended to see them as human. The wealth of this nation, its railroads, its cotton, banks, White House, was soaked in the black blood and sweat. And still the system works to keep them down, to silence, to punish, to erase. And today, this country is still being built on the backs of the brown, the poor, the undocumented, farm workers who can't afford the food that they harvest, mothers crossing borders to keep their children alive, laborers doing the hardest work for the lowest pay, while being called a burden by the very people who benefit from them. I may not carry that history in my blood, but I refuse to look away. Because the truth is, America was never built by the powerful. It was built by the oppressed, by the people whose names never made it to the textbooks, by the ones this country tried to forget. But we remember. We remember because silence is a choice. And I will not choose it. Not now, not ever. Not while native land is still stolen. Not while black lives are still under attack. Not while immigrants are hunted, caged, and dehumanized. And not while injustice reigns, here or anywhere. I don't speak for anyone, but I will speak with them. Stand beside them and fight for what's right. Because I know this. We are the people, and we won't be silent.
White people are weak. We have power we have given ourselves, and put down the cultures that are stronger than us because we know that we're weak. If white Americans were oppressed the same way black, native, or Mexican American people are, we would crack like glass. Our culture and identity as white people is so meaningless that we do everything in our power to keep other people down so that we don't break from having someone else on top. I think that's why you see white Americans championing white pride, not just out of ignorance or racism, but it's because they are scared. They're scared to come to terms with their guilt, scared to admit they're wrong, and terrified to acknowledge that we may have all the societal, economic, and political power, but as a people we are weak. But this isn't the way it has to be forever. I have hope that one day my people will finally take responsibility for what we have done. I hope that we'll collectively accept our role in the oppression of our non-white brothers and sisters and finally take action. And it will take the action of us white folks. It's not just non-white people that have to fight for their rights. It's us too fighting for them because our cross to bear is being born white. Being born with the skin color of the oppressors means that we have to fight to be nothing like them. We're not near that right now. America is in a tumultuous stage where it very much does not feel like white people are acknowledging where they went wrong. But I want to have hope, and I refuse to accept that one day justice won't prevail. Collectively, we can all shed the shadow of oppression and share this place together. And that's the message I want to end with. I want to be hopeful that one day oppression will be something taught in history class, something that we don't have to see ourselves in. That's what I hope. Anyway, I want to be optimistic in the end. Anyway,
What's up, good people? I hope you're doing great from wherever you're watching this video from, and welcome back to the channel. Now, have you realized this strong wave of reckoning in the air? Reckoning cutting across America currently, and especially with white people. And this is what Black people and other people of color have been speaking about for years, since the inception of modern day America. But nobody has been listening. But now you realize that white people are coming out, and it's not decent white scholars or white activists or even white celebrities, but the everyday white American is now coming out to shun the vice of white superiority, of white supremacy. Uh, because this is coming at a time when the decline of the American empire has become more obvious than it has ever been, especially with this Trump era, where all the cracks in the image of America, of what the illusion, have begun to appear and become so clear. The cracks in the illusion of, the American dream, the greatest country on earth, are becoming more clearer than ever. And it takes a decent white American to say that our country is being thrown into the dogs, and we have to fight together. Because the truth is, the history of America is whitewashed, and the truth is not taught that America is built on stolen land, on stolen forced labor, on stolen resources. And America has not been built by the greatest. It has actually been built by the oppressed, those whose names have never appeared in any history book and might never appear in any history book. But with the decline of the American empire, it's going to affect Black, brown, and white people all together. And the rhetoric being peddled by this current regime, by Donald Trump, is now exposing it clear what white supremacy really means. The slogan MAGA, as we have dealt with in my previous video, is not about making America great again. It's actually about making America white again. Because looking at the history of America, for example, if you're trying to tell us we are taking America back to the great days, history for most Black and brown people in America is not the most pleasant. So don't tell us about taking America back. America is not supposed to go back. It's supposed to move forward. So this is exactly what white people, the ordinary, everyday white person, is also coming out to speak against. Let's continue to listen into what they have to say, and we're going to have a little discussion right at the end.
It sucks to be a white American. Now hold on, give me a chance, let me explain. I want you to think of the kind of person who would put on a White Lives Matter sticker on the back of their Ford pickup. Why do they do that? Is it all racism? Well, yeah. But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. White Americans basically have no culture. Not in the same way we see other people. And we white people, we know this inherently, and it scares us. We know we have our regional cultures. Our cities, our sports teams, and families all give us our regional culture, but being white basically means nothing, or generally at least nothing positive. White people throughout American history are almost always seen on the side of the oppressors. Not all white people, but most of us. And this sucks to learn. It's even harder to internalize. And it's why white people usually don't accept this, because it makes us feel a deep sense of guilt. I think it's why white people say nonsense like, I can't be racist, I have black friends. Sure, you probably don't see black people as objects, but you're refusing to accept the role our people have had in their oppression. That guilt we feel is our responsibility for the actions of our ancestors. It's why white people refuse to say that black people deserve reparation, because it admits our guilt. But black people deserve reparations. It just makes sense logically. You can sue someone for scratching your car, but black people can't sue the American government for the enslavement of their people. My people are arresting and deporting Mexican families from this country. Think about that. We are telling people that they are not allowed on the land we stole. Let's go a step further. White people stole a sacred land site from the people indigenous to this land and then carved 4 white people's faces on it, most of which were slave owners. I mean, Mount Rushmore is a place that we look at and we're like, oh, cool, giant faces. But to other people, it's a giant form of oppression, and admitting that and coming to terms with that sucks. We suck, dude. My people really and truly suck. Not all of us contributed to this oppression, but we are all a part of it. And this will mostly sound like virtue signaling. It will mostly sound like, look at how rough we are. But there is a reality to admitting this guilt and being honest with it. Because white people are afraid to do this. And we're afraid to admit it because my people are weak. Black people deserve reparations. Yes, I'm dead serious. I'm not just saying this because I want to own up for our history of slavery. Although that is a fine reason to say we should pay reparations, I'm saying that because America has an outstanding debt to all black Americans born in this country. We owe black people, and I'm willing to bet you all have no idea how much. So I'm going to break it down for you. I'm not making only an emotional and moral argument here. I just think it's the logical thing to do. So if you're Republican, Democrat, and especially if you're white, please hear me out. White people are the largest demographic of people that oppose reparations. So you can head into the comments and call me a white traitor or a suck up to black people or whatever you want. All I ask is that you hear me out first. I'm going to break down the history of this real quick so I can make sure we're on the same page. The vast majority of African Americans that are born in America are descended from slaves. I'm talking like 90%, a massive number. African Americans were enslaved for nearly 250 years, from 1619 to 1865. Over 2 centuries that an entire race of people was enslaved, and their descendants right now are your lawyers, your law enforcement, your teachers, and yes, they were once your president. But we abolished slavery, right? So what's the problem? Bro, so much. After slaves were freed nationwide, General William Sherman met with 20 black pastors in Georgia and asked them one simple question. What do you want for your people? These pastors argued that they didn't want to live among white people because it would take years for racial prejudice to dissipate, and they wanted their own land that they can till by their own labor where they would be safe. Sherman agreed and signed Field Order 15. The order was supported by Abraham Lincoln, and it reserved 400,000 acres of land for freed slaves. That's all the way from South Carolina, like Charleston, to Florida. However, 4 months later, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, and not too long after that, Abe Lincoln's replacement, Andrew Johnson, revoked the order. After it was revoked, freed black slaves were fucked. They had no money, no land, and were incredibly impoverished. Most ended up going back to working, the white man's land, and that was called sharecropping, and the conditions there were only slightly better than slavery. Some black folks became landowners, but it was incredibly rare. It makes you wonder what would have happened if Lincoln lived. The racial divide in our country would be entirely different. Slavery doesn't end with sharecropping either. Legal slavery continued until the 1930s. It was called convict leasing, and to put it simply, black folks would be arrested en masse on trumped-up charges, then have them working in the same fields in the same conditions they had as slaves. So slavery didn't end in 1865. In fact, it's not even been 100 years since slavery ended. In fact, slavery still exists in our prison system today. But I'm going off topic getting into that. What's important to remember is that we enslaved black people for centuries and had them build everything for us. And I mean literally everything. They built our roads, our buildings, our infrastructure. America is a land entirely built on slaves, and anyone who tells you different either doesn't know the truth or is lying. The Smithsonian was built by slaves. Harvard was built by slaves. The Capitol building was built by slaves. The fucking White House was built by slaves. And so so much more. It's not figurative. We literally owe the black people in this country. We've got an outstanding bill to pay these people. We've said we're sorry and promised to pay multiple times, but every time we fuck these people over. We don't just owe the slaves that died, we owe their heirs. And we have paid out reparations to people before that have been damaged by things that are not their fault. And those payments go out to their heirs. Black people of today are absolutely still affected by racial injustice rooted in slavery. There is so much more to this argument, and I encourage you to learn more about the history of reparations and slavery if you're interested, but instead of focusing on that, I want to say something else. I don't think the reparations discussion will ever be solved logically. I think it will always have to come from the heart and explain why it's the right thing to do, and so I want to speak from the heart for a second. I was raised in the South, and I truly love this place. It's something that I don't talk about often because I think my friends would make fun of me for it, but I love it. I love back roads and country music and living in a small town. I love sweet tea, and I'm always blown away when I travel other places and they don't have... You know what I mean. I may not always act like it, but I really love this place. But here's the thing. I was raised to notice injustices and think critically, to respect authority, but not to revere it, not to let power get to your head and that greed will steal what truly matters to you. So why is it, when I look around at this place I love, all I see is that same greed, injustice, and unchecked authority everywhere? And it's being used to put these people down, time and time again. And I just can't shake this feeling I have deep down that we've done these people wrong. There's no two ways about it. I'm not supposed to be on this land. I am not supposed to be here because so many had to die for me to be here. And if I had to trade my existence to make those things right, I would. I don't deserve to be here, but I am. And slowly, I realize that feeling guilty about this does nothing. I'm not the one who made any of those decisions, but just like how black people have to wear the history of their ancestors on their skin, so do we. We are at fault. And that's why I think reparations is just the right fucking thing to do. And don't give me about the shit about that we can't afford it or it's not realistic. It is. So many people smarter than me have come up with plans for reparations that are realistic and affordable. It's not just about making the right decision. So many people can rest if we do this. The blood of our history can rest if we just do what's right.
America's identity is not freedom. If you're always going on and on about how America is the greatest country on earth because it's so free and we're always trying to spread freedom, you need to calm down. America is and has always been about two things: profit and white supremacy. When I say this, I'm not trying to be ungrateful of the privilege I have having grown up in the United States as the wealthiest country on earth. And I know that there are plenty of countries around the world that have horrible human rights offenses, genocides, poverty, famine, corruption, and so on and so forth. But America is not about freedom, and we have pretended to be about freedom for the entire lifetime of this country. When I think about the Pledge of Allegiance that I was forced to recite in elementary school, middle school, high school, every day, every morning, looking at a flag, placing my hand over my heart, and pledging my allegiance to a country that I didn't really know that much about. We have whitewashed our history and our modern politics and our impact on the world right now so much that most people who get educated in this country have no clue what dark, evil shit we get up to. The FBI archives are publicly available. You can go online and read all about the nasty shit that they did, the relentless spying they did on people that were protesting through the 1960s and 70s, and look at Iraq throughout the 20th century, and then the invasion after 9/11. Look at Israel and Palestine. We're driven by two things: profit and white supremacy. Those are the bottom lines. From the very beginning, when this country was founded for equality for every person, Yet we had slaves that built our economy. The first 90 years of this country. For the next 100, black people still did not have full rights and citizenship recognized by the government. We can't even ask to use ranked choice voting in our elections because the current politicians and the political parties are so entrenched in exchanging money for policy and perpetuating the two-party system that leaves the rest of the country, 90% of people, completely fucked by an endless cycle of capitalism. It's all about profit, and it's all about white supremacy, both at home and abroad. And I'm so sick of the way that the United States media and education completely whitewashes that. We can't even have a conversation about communism and socialism because everybody in this country is so fucking scared of those words. They have no idea what they mean. Remember McCarthyism? I mean, how can you have a country that says that it is a free country when you literally have a ringleader blacklisting other politicians just by uttering a word? And that fear of communism and socialism is absolutely still present today. We're so stuck on capitalism and this greed for profit, relentless greed for profit. It will keep us locked in this cycle of raping the earth and exploiting working class people and keeping everybody else divided through the mechanisms of white supremacy. I'm so sick and tired, and I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of watching the politicians and the leaders fight in every way they can to keep this country exactly on the path that it is. Anyway, that's my hot take for the 4th of July. Fuck this man.
Let's talk about the lie that gets thrown around so casually. Why don't they just come here legally? Because that sentence. That's not a question. It's a weapon, and it's used to shame people who are already climbing through a fire just to survive. I married my husband here in the U.S. He's undocumented. We file legally from inside the country, and we're doing everything right. And we're still waiting years just to get an interview. We've done the biometrics, paid thousands, followed every rule. The cost? Anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 or more just to try and live together in peace. But the system doesn't care how hard you work. It doesn't care about families. It cares about who you are and where you're from and how much you can pay. And let's talk about asylum seekers. They come to the border asking for help legally. That's right. Seeking asylum is a legal right under the U.S. and international law. But instead of due process, they're met with cages, cruelty, with politicians calling them invaders, with headlines and hashtags that treat them like threats instead of human beings. And people still say, well, they should have came the right way. That was the right way. They walked through the front door and asked for protection. And that's how asylum works. But instead of empathy, they're labeled illegals. It's dehumanizing. It's intentional. It makes people turn away instead of leaning in. Let's talk about visitor visas from places like Mexico or Honduras. If you don't have a savings account, a job contract, or property, you're denied. That means millions are locked out of a system before they can even start. Let's talk about green card quotas. The U.S. limits visas to 7% per country per year. That's about 26,000 for Mexico. And there are millions of people waiting. Some will wait for 20 years or more. DACA recipients, they work, drive, go to school, but they can't leave the country. They can't see a dying grandparent. Even if they marry a U.S. citizen, most still can't adjust their status unless they enter legally or get emergency parole. And then there's the 3 and 10-year bars. If you've lived here undocumented and you leave even just once, you're barred from coming back for years. Waivers exist, but they could take up to 3 years or more, and there's no guarantee. This system isn't just flawed, it's designed to filter, to delay, to deter, to exclude. And the ones who move through it easily are the ones with money, European passports, and privilege. This country calls itself a land of opportunity, but for millions of us, it feels like a land of locked doors and moving goalposts. We did everything right, and we're still stuck in limbo, still afraid, so no, I won't stay silent. Even if they flag my video, even if people try to twist my words. Because this isn't just about laws, it's about love, it's about family. It's about human lives and human rights. If that's controversial, then maybe the problem isn't the messenger. It's the system we've all been told to accept. We are the people, and we will not be silent.
I wonder if America really wants to be saved. I don't know what else this country needs to see. We have people being snatched up by people in masks and unmarked cars. We're building a concentration camp in Florida where the president is laughing or jeering about, oh, if they escape, an alligator's going to have them for dinner. We're talking about undoing birthright citizenship, which is in the Constitution, disobeying the courts, taking away due process, removing habeas corpus potentially. It's make America white again. Now you're going to lose your Medicaid, SNAP benefits. What's going to happen to the people that are poor? That can't afford to go into these living homes? Are they just going to push them out on the curb and just leave them there for the garbage man to pick them up? Does your mom have to go into sepsis because your state has a ban that shouldn't be there? Does your family member, a U.S. citizen who's not white, have to be snatched up and have their arm dislocated before you to get really, really, really pissed off? And for all of you content creators that have all these millions of followers that are just grifting, fuck you. And I mean that. I don't give a fuck how popular you are. If you're on here grifting, talking to MAGA every night, you're part of the goddamn problem. You're grifters. Just like the president. The clan leader. Sorry, he's not a president. He's a little bitch. With great power comes great responsibility. You come up here and you bitch and you moan and you complain about the system itself while you're making money off of people suffering. MAGA, come on up, tell me how it is. MAGA, tell me what you believe. MAGA, tell me what you believe. MAGA, tell me what you believe. That's right. Capitalism. You hoard yourself out for a couple of Benjamins while the house is on fire. Isn't that ironic? The thing that you rail against, that you criticize on both sides of the aisle, you're doing yourself. What a shame. I don't want innocent people to be harmed by this bill, and it is going to do that. Do you not see what's going on in this country? I'm mad because I give a damn. Just because it hasn't happened to me doesn't mean that I can't be pissed off, and I shouldn't be. Why do we wait until something affects us before we give a shit about stopping in this country? Can anybody explain that to me? Amber Thurman wasn't my family member, but I care about her. Adriana Smith, I care about her. Officer Sitnick, I care about him. I care about the kids at Parkland and Uvalde. We're to the point where it's just, the reality is there is part of this country that are white supremacists, and they wear red hats. And that's what they want, so fuck them. Let them have Misfit Island. Give them Florida and say, fuck you, get out of here. I don't want to be part of a country that lives with racists anymore. Enough is enough. I'm going to use my white privilege and make these videos every damn day. If only one person watches it, I frankly don't give a damn anymore. Because this is doing the right thing. This is the problem with this country. White supremacy, period, hard stop. Everything else is bullshit. Medicare, Medicaid, tariffs, taxes, none of that matters. Every demographic being affected right now and demonized are non-white people. This is 1930s Germany. Do not be afraid to say that. That's what this is. That's what's in Florida with the alligators. Stop kidding yourself. This bill is going to make ICE detention facilities the most funded prison system in this country, while they voted for a white man who's a convicted felon, an adjudicated rapist, tax fraud, having dinner with white nationalists, an insurrection on January 6th, steals from cancer charities, insults disabled people and soldiers. Oh, but I want law and order. But I just want them to be here legally. But the convicted felon, because he's white, that's okay. You're racists. Make America white again is your slogan. I'm going to keep pushing this general strike if I'm the only one that's going to sign this damn petition anymore, because this is the solution. If I have to do it every damn day until there's a crack in the dam, then this is what I'm going to do, because this is the right thing to do. I want to look back in 10 years, and I want my grandkids to look back on me and say, Grandpa, thank you so much for fighting against that Klan leader in the White House, that plantation owner. That's what I want. What are your kids going to say about you? Were you doom scrolling? Were you debating MAGA every night? Were you consuming outrage fake news and funny memes from your celebrity? Were you watching cat videos and dance videos? Were you making those dance videos and those cat videos? Or were you too scared to lose followers? Because you didn't want to lose money, because you didn't want to be political. This isn't political. This is about being a goddamn decent human being. People are going to lose their lives because of this bill. But hey, I know it sucks. You're going to lose some users and you're going to make less money. Oh, the fucking horror of it. So don't you come at me with this bullshit about, oh, I can't. Can we agree to it? No, we can't. No, we can't. You're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. You don't get to straddle the fence anymore on this. Pick a side.
Okay, so with the cracks in the illusion of the American image appearing, and now white people are coming out to say, no, enough is enough. And the truth, we have to face the truth. In what many people can or have been describing as, the white guilt catching up, you would observe some general, key general observations like increased awareness of historical injustices. So white people learning the full extent of colonization in Africa, slavery in America, and the systemic racism that's taking place. So access to more uncensored information, to more sources of information through social media, and just a diversion from mainstream whitewashed mainstream media. There is more information now coming out, and which more people are appreciating and are learning the truth on the history that would rather never be taught under the perspective of white supremacy. Talk about the post George Floyd awakening. So global outrage over the murder of George sparked white participation in protest, even though not really, we might not say all white people were there, but we saw white people also coming out in the fight. Then, so this has opened the eyes of many white individuals to the systemic police brutality and racial inequity. And again, we talk about white people publicly challenging racism themselves. And we're talking about the everyday white person. So more white people speaking out in their communities, in their workplaces, and in their families about or against racism. Social media videos like the ones I've just been playing of white people confronting their racist relatives are going viral every single day. And then there's the growth of the white allyship movements. So organizations like the Showing Up for Racial Justice are gaining a lot of traction if you have been observing. So white allies are learning to support without making themselves the center of attention all the time, and which if can observe, white supremacy is trying to make whiteness the center or the default. And then we have white scholars and educators unpacking whiteness, and these are very many. So academics and teachers like Jane Elliott, for example, are creating content that breaks down white privilege and white fragility. Book clubs, podcasts, and lectures are so much available now on the internet, as long as you're not one who is fixed to mainstream media, on which you can educate yourself, and you will find white people educating themselves on what has been happening. Then there's the confronting of white supremacy in politics. Very important. So some white politicians are acknowledging the systemic racism and advocating for policy changes. And then we have whistleblowers or white whistleblowing against racist policing and voter suppression and even education inequities. And then we have white celebrities and influencers also speaking out about the same. Now, this is a good time for Black people to actually ride on the wave, because this is the time that we have been fighting for and waiting for since, centuries ago. And it is time to ride on the wave and fight for what we have believed in since, the times of our ancestors. So I don't know what you think about what we have watched today in this video. Please go ahead and share your opinions, share your thoughts. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and share it with your family. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'd kindly ask you to go ahead and subscribe to be part of this community. So with that, we have come close to the close of this video, and I'd love to see you in the next video. Peace out.